Welcome to the End Evil podcast. Truth, freedom, love. Folks who care about principles and understand the importance of philosophy. It's an important time to network, to come together, to learn from one another, and to teach others what we have learned. It is a process which we can use to divine truth. Here's a quote from Thomas Paine. Where knowledge is a duty, ignorance is a crime. I've got a request. Please head over to endevil.life and hit the YouTube link or follow the category link on the bar to watch the End Evil video presentation series. This is meant to be a primer. It's prerequisite material for the podcast. In some of these early episodes, there may be some overlap of material, and I will attempt to cover some of the same basics, but I would appreciate it if you take the time to watch the End Evil presentation series, because I put it together in a way that it would be a progression of logical thought. I want to concentrate on this episode, episode 1, The Dark Journey, on what I can do for you, my audience, with this podcast. I know from experience the excitement, joy, and pain that comes with being a human. I have a deep love for all people. I want you to understand that even though in this podcast I will often make harsh statements like, humanity is swimming in a sea of evil, which I see as a true assessment of the situation, not being negative. So if things start sounding a little negative on the podcast, recognize it's only for the sake of trying to see things as they truly are. If anything, I'm an optimist and an idealist. I know the depth of evil's hold on humanity, and I'm still firmly willing to resist, even while the odds seem completely out of balance. So that's actually a pretty positive viewpoint. The thing is, my deeper self knows that this is a temporary illusion of sorts, this idea that the evil is taking over, or a prevalent force. In the bigger scheme of things, evil cannot ever amount to much. It's just a force that attempts to destroy life. Life itself is supported by the heart of the universe. Imagine the light of the sun or the stars or the type of forces that conjured everything we know. What could ever challenge that type of creative force? In the big scheme of things, evil's not much of a concern to the universe. But for us, right here and now in our daily lives, it's a pretty scary situation. But it becomes a lot less scary when we find each other and we work together on dealing with the bigger issues, those of us that see them. As humans, we are in a magnified, manifested physical experience of the nitty-gritty details of life, and we're attempting to resolve and evolve from the animalistic and basic life to the higher vibrational creative beings that can create other beings or create beauty or heal other beings. We could be caretakers of the earth. Humans, we are actually a conduit between the manifested and the unmanifested energy of the universe. The universal force of consciousness, in Alan Watts' view, God is trying to see himself. So he hides from himself, because that momentary gap is how he can indeed see himself. It's a bit of a hard concept to get, but a symbol that makes sense for me is a seed that grows from a tree and falls from the tree. And in that time, it's separate from the tree, its mother. It falls through the air, it's alone. and it's in its shell until it reaches the ground where it rejoins with the cycle of life, and it becomes a new tree. So was it ever not a tree? It was always a tree, but there's this illusion of separateness in our life is what I'm getting at. And that can be scary. I think most people feel some level of depression in the modern age. So this podcast is a way for us to come together, to work towards a common goal. Here's something else I can do for you with this podcast. I can consistently give you things to think about, fuel for thought. I will take you on a journey, and I will guarantee to challenge you and to question your deepest held beliefs and preconceptions. I will offer you pathways to take, rabbit holes to explore. I want to take you on a spiritual journey to help you become a better person, cleansed of evil thoughts, deeds, and actions. And I want to take myself on that journey, and the best way to learn is to teach. The reason this episode is called The Dark Journey is because the reason we are here. Most of us have come to realize that some terrible or sinister thing about the world, the ruling class, the damage to the environment, the damage to the self, the lies told in the media, the truth that's been hidden from the masses. Those of us who are choosing at this time to search for truth and care about freedom are walking down a dark path. It's going to be a lonely path, often where others don't want our opinion. It's a scary path where some people want to beat you up emotionally or physically just for trying to do the right thing or just for trying to be yourself. So, only the bravest and the wisest need apply. If you really care and are willing to go through some fear and frustration, then join me as we walk down this path, this dark path. There will be bright spots on the way, but I warn you now, embarking on this podcast is much like joining Frodo on the march to Mordor. There's going to be some dark stuff on the road. I'm looking for warriors, people who face fear head on. But if you lose the ability to question yourself, you are truly lost. From The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. Evil is the destruction of freedom. It cannot be stated more simply. Everywhere you look, you will find the obfuscation of evil. There are countless ideas which are taught about the nature of evil. Every false idea is created by evil to hide truth from you. Evil's not darkness, and it's not a frightening unknown. Evil is not some mystical psychology of man, nor is it inherent in our natures. It is not supernatural, and it most definitely exists. As with all principles, the principle of evil is simple. Evil is the destruction of freedom. When free, you can build glory, peace, prosperity, and joy into the world. Around you, you will find all these things. Men and women like you built these things. Evil enslaves. Evil is found in words such as force, compulsion, tax, violence, theft, censure, and politics. Notice that in such things there is no joy. None have any value to humanity. I have a gift for you. It is something more valuable than any material object. It is rare in this world. It is the key to unlocking your life. All the things that have not made sense for years can become clear to you. Yes, I'm not joking. If you stick with me on this podcast, I guarantee that you will grow as a person. I can't guarantee everything will become clear, but clearer. I know this because this is what's been happening in my life, and this is what I'm doing. It's hard as hell sometimes, just like working out physically, but it feels really good at times too. If you're here listening to this, I'm sure that you're someone who wants to improve as a person. Someone who wants to make the world a better place, and understands that the way to do that is by working on the self. To know thyself is the oldest and most simple wisdom that's universally respected, along with the golden rule, which in consequence is natural law. I intend to take you on a spiritual journey through knowledge concerning subjects and studies of philosophy, natural law, morality, spirituality, the occult, nonviolent communication, logic skills, the non-aggression principle, hermetic principles, the self-defense principle, psychology, mind control. Those are just a few that are coming to mind right now, subjects that we'll be discussing. This show will be an eclectic show, but the guiding principles will always be the same. Philosophy, a study of how to be part of the world, making a better place by changing ourselves, starting from the inside to repair the problem. The exterior, we have to share this understanding that the exterior physical world is to be understood as the outward manifestations of what has already been put into motion from the non-physical realms. My hope is to give you weekly new things to think about, to challenge myself and yourself, and give things that you can use to help others see through the bullshit that surrounds us. We will discuss podcasts, books, and videos, and cover topics of morality and natural law. I will share with you clips that I take from things that I find inspirational and worthy of discussion. My hope is that this podcast can be your They Live glasses to help you tune your inner radio channel to the alignment with nature and the environment around us. I personally have a great love for nature, and you will see this reflected in the way I make my slides and stories I tell and symbols using nature, which I find to be the best reflection of what is truth, and instructions for living are all held within the great book of life, which is nature. Finding a new perspective or idea can be inspirational. In times of depression, anxiety, or fear, a new book or a show or person that presents things in a new way, or just presents things in a slightly different way, becomes medicine for the soul. I hope you can take inspiration from this podcast and push yourself forward on your own personal goals, personal endeavors, research, creativity, and self-discipline. It's up to you how far you're willing to go. Your value is immeasurable. There's no tool that can measure how important your body, spirit, and mind are. Don't let the fact that there are so many other humans out there walking around make you feel less valuable. Part of the reason we understand value the way we do, it's normally seen in our society as something like silver or gold, which value is partially due to the fact it's hard to get. We don't really know or have a way of knowing how difficult it is to get a life and get born on this planet. We can only assume, based on what we know, that it's not easy. An egg getting fertilized in the womb, there are 100,000 sperms, and only one makes it all the way and becomes the human life that we're living. It's a long shot, It's a miracle every time. It's an amazing process, and we're lucky to have this opportunity to go through it. Freedom. While evil seeks to destroy or hide a person's worth, freedom shows humans their full potential and their full value. With freedom, people have loved, cured disease, removed hunger, eased labor, and lived in peace. With freedom, happiness is possible. Freedom is the exact opposite of evil. I'm developing this podcast in order to address the dilemma that humanity faces. Philosophy is the first step to healing a damaged planet with a morally compromised, soul-dead population. The hidden key is philosophy, the love of wisdom, the love of truth. Understanding absolute divine truth offers the opportunity for ultimate freedom, love, harmony, happiness, and the end of all evil. Consider it possible to rid the world and ourselves of evil. There is an actual method to remove the worst of the sadness, anger, and suffering from the human condition. Try to imagine humanity in its full apex prime, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Why is that so difficult? Do you not believe that it's possible for humans to coexist peacefully? Surely we know it's possible for peace, truth, and love to prevail. The aim is to impress you about the value of your time on this planet, to shine a light on the most important truth that has been obscured for too long, to give you the information and knowledge necessary to make true change, to move human experience away from suffering and grief and towards love and joy. Let's work together towards the end of all evil. This presentation is dedicated and inspired by podcaster Mark Passio, who successfully exposed much of the information to me. And many of the slides that I use in the End Evil presentation are borrowed from Mark Passio's What on Earth is Happening. And much of the ideas and information to support this are also from the book The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. I also want to remember an important hero from the past, Thomas Paine. From the book, The End of All Evil. What we consider as real slavery is indeed only one form of slavery. The African slaves in the United States were compelled to work and toil for other people's benefit. Their lives were mostly controlled for the benefit of the master. But they had some very limited freedoms. Some were able to create distinct traditions and maintain families. They did their best to build joy into their lives, despite the tyranny wrought upon them. Because they were in control of portions of their lives, were they free? How much freedom does a person deserve? How much freedom can be destroyed before we recognize that it is evil? Slavery is not a concept of totality. Slavery exists wherever the freedom of man is destroyed. Theft and bullying are slavery. In history, African natives, Jews, and many others have experienced lifelong slavery. The ultimate slavery is murder. Slavery stops people from being able to make choices for their own lives. Everything that restricts your mind, your movements, and your speech is evil. Slavery is found in both the partial and complete destruction of freedom. So Jeremy Locke points out that physical slavery is not the same as mental slavery or debt slavery that we're currently experienced, but just different forms of the same thing. One's not necessarily worse than the other, they're different. Bear in mind, these soft slavery tactics that we are experiencing now of debt slavery and mental slavery and censorship, if they continue to work so well, chances are we'll slide right down the slippery slope into an all-out physical slavery, or worse. And there is a such thing of worse. I often think of the Matrix movie where people have no idea they're basically become batteries for this non-human machine. We could really become something like that, and in some cases you can already see reflections of that in the modern world. It's time for us to break out of the shell. The difficult thing is that the journey is dark. It goes through some sinister territory. And we're going to have to face things we don't want to see or don't want to hear at times. I think the truth is that most humans in the modern day age are depressed to some extent. And that makes sense because of the state of humanity, which is in a place of slavery. And so it only makes sense that people are feeling sadness and depression because we have an inner drive for something much better that our subconscious knows can exist. It's hard to hear that we are a broken people, but I want to build a new future with you, and we can do this. I want to tell you a quick story of being in a museum and looking at the sculpture of Rodin called The Gates of Hell. And it's quite amazing to be at a museum like that where there's so much ancient history and art, and the sculptures were really affecting me on an emotional level, which is what they're supposed to do. But as I was looking at Rodin's Gates of Hell, I really did cry a bit as it occurred to me that in many ways this experience on Earth is it's as if the gates of hell have been opened on this planet, and all the horrors I was seeing depicted were reminding me of what's going on in the world around me. And it was sort of a sad realization. I preferred my previous young mind that believed hell was somewhere very far away that we would only go to if we'd done terrible things, But I want to say that right now, in this time in history, the gates of hell have been opened up on this plane. And it's our job to shut that shit down. I've always loved comic books and superheroes. It's all a bunch of silly stuff, but it's based on some very real, serious stuff. And I think that's why I get interested. I want to be part of that fight for the good. I want to be part of that fight with all my heart. Do you? It means really caring about freedom and valuing your choices, even the small ones. It means making hard choices. Understanding that you have a right to do anything that does not cause harm to others. This is empowering. Even with that crappy wall of hellish things going on, you can be the first person up to the top of the wall, on the top of the gates, helping people out of the hell. We can work together. We can imagine a new sculpture where we're giving each other a boost to get up out of it to the next level, working together to make something amazing. So this is an opportunity. You can get involved. The End Evil podcast is just getting off the ground. And I'm not even asking for donations yet in the form of money. Maybe as things grow and my website becomes chock full of information, I'll set up the donation. In the meantime, I do want your help. Help me by sharing the show. Share it with your friends and your family. Tell people about it at work. Help me by spreading the word. I don't do much social media, so talk about it on social media. If we all end evil inside ourselves, the world will change for the better. So you can also help by, if you are a creative person, I need help with art for future shows. If you like to talk or make music, send me a clip and I will consider playing it if I can find it that it's relevant. If you are working on how to end evil in your life and want some coaching, contact me. I'll do what I can. You're lucky. Because the show's young, right now I'm eager. I don't have a large audience. I'm very accessible. You can hit me up with email or find me on social media. All the links are on endevil.life. It's a great time to network, and it's a great time to start working on your spiritual journey and to change the world. Fuck evil shit.
Why are we humans so mixed up? No matter what, it's never enough. The killing and the stealing, it's beating us up. Humanity healing is what I dream of. The fix for these tricks, it's easy enough. It's truth and it's freedom and it's universal love. It's truth and it's freedom and it's universal love. Universal love. And evil. And evil. And evil. And evil. And evil, and evil.